Hello, everybody. Good to have you all here. It's 9 o'clock here in Ireland and UK, 10 o'clock in France and Spain. So today, Rodrigo is with us. I want to say thank you, Rodrigo. And our
Thanks to
topic
you.
today couldn't be the other, like Christmas and Spiritism. Let's understand a little bit more the meaning of the Christmas, the message behind it, and get to know if Christmas for the Spiritism has a different meaning from the other religion. So, Fayute, my Asian friends, and let's start with Miss Gibbons. Good evening, Miss Gibbons.
Hello, good evening. It's nice to be here, especially that last week with all the problems we had the connection, we're not able to be together. So it's really wonderful, and especially in a very important week, that's the Christmas week. And so we send our thoughts of love to everyone. And yeah, nice to be with him, that he hasn't been with us for a while, and with Charles and with you, Stevan. And hope that we're having a good day. I'm sure we'll have a very good meeting today. So, boa tarde a todos que estejam nos ouvindo nesse dia, no momento importante da Semana do Mal. Queremos que as bênçãos de Deus sejam sobre todos nós, quando nos encontramos novamente, e que tudo dê certo e que nós vamos ter com certeza uma boa reunião. Então, que Deus abençoe a nós todos. Thank you.
Com certeza. Boas noites, Rodrigo.
Buenas noches. Hola, mis amigos. Es una alegría estar con vosotros una vez más. Hoy tenemos una responsabilidad muy grande. Primero de hablar de nuestro Maestro Jesús, de las Navidades, de lo que representa estas Navidades realmente para nosotros y en especial lo que hablamos hoy para los espíritas. Y es una alegría poder compartir. Esperamos poder llegar a los corazones de cada uno de vosotros y al nuestro también. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm very happy to be with such a team and with all of you this night. We are missing Elsa, Nadja, so miss you, ladies. So the subject today is great responsibility. We are here to talk about Jesus, what Christmas represents to all of us, and I hope we can fulfill this mission together and touch the heart of you and our hearts as well. So thank you so much.
Good. Assim. Bonsoir, Charles.
Bonsoir Steven, bonsoir à tous. Très heureux d'être à nouveau parmi vous. Désolé pour la semaine dernière. Il y avait le plan A ne marchait pas, le plan B non plus, donc c'était un peu difficile. Mais nous voilà de retour et pour parler de ce même sujet, de Jésus selon le spiritisme. Hello everyone. So apologies for last week. It was not possible to connect, but plan A didn't work, plan B also not. But we are back here today, luckily, and very happy to talk about this nice theme, which is in this week of Christmas, talking about Jesus and according to Spiritism.
Yeah. So once again, sorry, apologies for last week, but as Charlie said, plan A, B, C, and D didn't work, so we didn't have after D. So thank you for your comprehension and for your patience. So as usual, let me put the streaming here. Okay. There we go. Let's start.
It's Christmas Eve, and Stuart Varney sat down with Father Jonathan Morris to discuss the true meaning of Christmas. Take a listen.
Christmas to me is a special time. I don't feel like this at any other time of year. To me, it's not the shopping, it's not the presents, it's not the lights and the parties and all the rest of it. It's just a special spiritual feeling. And I suspect that that's what you're going to communicate to your parishioners today.
I hope so. You know, there's the human part, no doubt. And, you know, it's the sounds, the smells, all of that is the parties.
The cultural association.
Yeah, and people are nicer around Christmas. That's the first part. But then, as you suggest, there's a second level, the spiritual part. And the spiritual is the things, the intangibles. And interestingly, Christmas is both spiritual, the intangible, but it's also a very messy human thing. To think that God would become man, this is what we're celebrating. God would become man, and he would be in the form of a baby. The thing that couldn't scare anybody. A baby doesn't scare anybody. And I think it's God's way of saying, where you're at right now, in all the messiness that is your life, our life, I'm going to come to you in a form that you can embrace me and embrace my love.
That special feeling comes to me at Christmas, almost automatically. I don't need to see the Christmas tree or the lights and the shopping and the presents and the parties and all that. I don't need all of that. It comes to me. I'm sure it comes to you, does it not?
It does, but it also comes to you, I think, because you've had some formation, some spiritual formation. There's a lot of people out there who don't have any of that basis, the background.
How do you reach those people? How do you do that? Because a lot of people shy away from overly religious talk. If you say, Jesus is my savior, people react a little bit against that. They back away. You know, how do you reach it?
Well, remember the famous phrase by St. Augustine, you know, my heart will be restless until it rests in you, Lord. So I think even those who don't have that spiritual background, the education, there's a restlessness in the human soul that can only be satisfied, in my opinion, by an understanding and a relationship with God himself that fills the soul. It's talk about the ultimate soulmate. That's who it is, in my opinion.
Deep down, all human beings are hardwired to have a spiritual life. That's my belief. Yours?
Yes, because the soul is eternal. That's why you don't say, you know, I'm going to love you for a little while, and then I'm not going to love you anymore. Well, love is tied to the soul, and the soul is tied to eternity, which is God. And I think that's why we long for the eternal.
I get tears in my eyes. All I have to do is go to church and sing a Christmas carol, and I've got tears in my eyes. You know that?
You're a sensitive guy. Don't let anybody know.
I'm not a sensitive guy.
You're a sensitive guy. Don't let anybody know.
This is the greatest time of year for me. This is the time that I truly love. I feel a special way, and you do too.
And I love the fact that our government, a long time ago, I don't know if they would ever do it now, has made a national federal holiday over something so spiritual. I think there's a danger in our country of losing that, and we lose that, we lose part of our soul.
Well said. Father Jonathan Morris on this Christmas Eve. Thank you very much indeed, Father. And Merry Christmas to you and your parishioners. Thank you.
Okay, so we wanted to say thank you for the Fox News who put this on YouTube. All the credits, it's for them. And it's wonderful to see such discussion in an open TV, especially in the US. So thank you very much. So as always, let me start with a reading about Christmas. This is in the book Before Jesus, message number 7. Every time Christmas comes around again, every time Christmas comes around again, counting and glowing, Christ returns to the hearts of people, clarifying the future. Christmas at every age, it's always a new joy. But in the gifts of charity, Christmas is every day. Christmas celebrates forgetting any vain prejudices. Christmas is Jesus saying that we are all brothers. Okay. So we just watched an excellent definition of Christmas. Also, we have this message here from Emmanuel. And let me put Charles in a fire here a little bit. And what's the difference between Spiritist Christmas and the other religions?
Good question, Stevan. I made a quick exercise before the life, and also before another life I gave recently over the same subject, is how many times we can see the word Christmas into all the writings of Allan Kardec. And what we can define is there is one occurrence only. So it looks a little bit strange, but when we analyze the history of the Christmas celebrations, we can see that it was not celebrated so strongly in the midst of the 19th century and as it is today. So, of course, it's the anniversary of the birth of Jesus. Well, the date maybe not exactly, but okay. It's a convention, and that is universally admitted. We are counting the years after the birth of Jesus, and this anniversary, which is every year the 25th of December. Now, we should maybe focus what is the difference between the concept of Jesus, who is Jesus according to Spiritism, compared with who he is from other religions. Okay, so when we go to Christian religions, clearly it is told there is a dogma of the Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, which is one same thing. And here, the Spiritist view is a little bit different. So, for the Spiritists, Jesus is not God. Jesus is a very high elevated spirit, probably the highest elevated spirit who ever incarnated on earth. But he is not God. God is the infinite, and Jesus is very highly elevated. So this is probably the reason why Jesus is so many times assimilated with God, because since we are so small, and particularly even smaller 2000 years ago, we cannot make the difference very clearly between what is very big and the infinite. Yet it is not the same. So, of course, Jesus is at our level, hearing from our level. What he's talking is absolutely pure, very high elevated. The teachings he brought are really a milestone in the humanity. I will not go deeper in this subject because I think Rodrigo or Silvia will talk about this. And this is enough for us, how to say, not needing to assimilate him with God, and basically he's not. Okay. Now, what is the most important in Jesus for the Spiritism? You know that in the Gospels, we can divide it in 5 main parts. The first part are the events of in the life of Christ. The second part is the miracles. The third part are the prophecies done by Jesus and by others. The fourth part are the words taken by the church on which they base their dogmas. And the fifth part is the moral teachings. So out of these 5 parts, the 4 first one are discussable. We cannot prove it. There is always different opinions depending on the trend, whether it's Catholic, Orthodox, or evangelic. But there is one, the fifth part, which is the most important, is really the one around which not only the Christian all agree, but also most of the other religions. You see, for instance, Islam, as per Mahomet, Islam is recognizing Jesus as a prophet. Mahomet is the last prophet, but Jesus is highly recognized through the teaching he brought as a prophet. The same is happening, for instance, in Hindu religion. When you listen to some people like Gandhi, they really say clearly that one of the most fantastic books that has ever been written in the humanity is, for instance, the Sermon of the Mount, which is in the Gospel as well. So these moral laws that Jesus brought are really very universal. And this is really what Spiritism is encouraging to commemorate. Because what can we see today? Commemoration of Christmas. Of course, a lot of people go to meet their family, their parents, brothers, friends, and so on. So this is extremely positive, extremely important. Now, what is also during this meeting, what is also happening is a lot of food, a lot of drink, some abusing a little bit of these material things, giving gifts here and there and whatsoever. So what we can see is that the Christmas, which is celebrated, by the way, not only in the Christian countries, but also in non-Christian countries nowadays, turned into a kind of a more material commemoration. And yet, this is this is not the essential part. The essential part are the moral teaching of Jesus. So what we can see in the Spiritist movement, for instance, in the Spiritist groups, are during Christmas, it's even occurring with the British Union of Spiritist Societies every year. They are gathering, making the Christmas boxes. I think it's like this that you call it, with some basic food
Shoebox.
and
The shoebox.
sorry,
shoebox.
Yeah. With basic needs that they are distributing for free to people who have limited resources. So this is really something in the celebration of Christmas, that to bring the material needs, to try to answer to the material needs of people which are poor or even homeless people, thus putting into practice the biggest teaching of Jesus, which is love God above all and love your neighbor as yourself. Do unto the others what you would like the other to do unto you. And these sentences, these statements are the universal ones, which are admitted by everyone. Even materialist people, they cannot say or deny the beauty of such teachings brought by Jesus. And if we analyze further the status of our world today, the problems we have, most of them, almost all of them, are caused by selfishness, by pride, which is leading to violence, which is leading to bad distribution of income, leaving some people without the basic needs, food or home or whatever. All this comes from selfishness and pride, as we comment very often during this spiritual light. And selfishness is exactly the opposite of what Jesus preached to all of us, which is charity. Charity is the love in action. Charity is benevolence towards everyone, indulgence in relation of the imperfection of the others, and forgiveness of offenses. This is a definition that the spirits have given for charity. And if we think to the future of our humanity, we are now running into global warming. We have some wars that are not lasting and lasting and lasting. There is the one in Ukraine. There are some other more than 80 conflicts in the world nowadays, we need to stop that. We need also to respect more our planet. We are really pushing too hard. The planet is not withstanding anymore all this consumption and whatsoever. So these are the things that we really have to think about into the spiritualist view that Jesus brought very clearly to see, okay, let's go really on what is necessary and cut all what is superfluous. And let's also take the chance, of course, commemorating, meeting with the family, with the people we love and whatsoever. But let's not fall into excesses or material abuse of superfluous material things and so on, because this is for sure not the example that Jesus has brought to us 2,000 years ago. So I hope I have answered to your question, and wish also that the peace of Jesus remains with all of us.
Yeah, yes, good. You answered more than clear. Thank you for the message, Charles, and just keep going here, our conversation. Let's go to Spain. So, Rodrigo, allow me to read a small message from Emmanuel regarding to Christmas. Christmas celebrations lead our understanding of Jesus' eternal lesson in humility at the precise moment when his message of love congratulates the hearts of creatures, make us feel still the taste of relevance of his divine teachings. The manger was the way, the exemplification was the truth. Calvary constitutes life. Without the path, earthly men will not reach the treasures of truth and life. Based on what Charlie said, based on this short but strong and sharp message from Emmanuel, can we say the passage of Jesus of Nazareth through to the earth was a milestone for humanity?
Well, thank you for the question. Yes, it's a strong and absolute yes. And it's so that way that we count our years from before and after Christ. But this is not only because of anything else, but the importance of Jesus to us. So before I go to answer your question, I'll also read um, a passage from the book On the Way to the Light from Emmanuel. And it's the chapter 12, the advent of Jesus, the Munger. The Munger marked the starting point for the saving lesson of the Christ, as if declaring that humility is the key to all the other virtues. The definitive age of humankind's spiritual adulthood had begun. For Jesus, with his divine exemplification, would deliver the code of fraternity and love to all hearts. So I think here we have a summary from Emmanuel that what really Jesus represented to the humankind. So when we study Spiritism, we study that there are three revelations. So first is Moses, the second is Jesus, and the third is Spiritism. So first, Moses, we are talking about justice and rights. So the Moses, let's say, laws or what he left to us is about justice and the rights of each one, which is basically our duties. But still in that age or in that era, we were at that time we were in the childhood of humankind. So as such, we couldn't understand really what we should do, because we didn't want to do. So we needed to learn or to do things because we needed to. So therefore, God at that time, although Moses brought one God concept to the humankind, but it was circumscribed into to some people. I mean that population, and also, so it was God was like a punisher. Like if you don't do what I'm telling you to do, so you'll be punished. So that's how they understood God at that time. So it was based on fear. So with the second revelation, which came with Jesus, so this was much different. So Jesus showed us a merciful God. So a God as a father, full of love, full of respect for us, full of care for us. So it was much different. So it's a kind of a revolution on the, let's say, the belief that people had in God at that time. So it was very shocking. So it was very shocking because before we had like we had proud in that time in the and in that culture was like um, not avoided. So it was something that people should have proud. So selfishness, pride, this is something that was like kind of respected in that culture. We should be like that. So when Jesus came, he said, "Oh, no, this is not the way." So this is against what we should do to achieve the God's kingdom, and that was very shocking for everyone. So and that created a kind of a division in our age, in our era. So that's why it was very important. So Jesus brought the message of love, as Emmanuel said here. So he was the divine exemplification of fraternity and love to our hearts. So first of all, Jesus came, and he didn't came only to the Hebrews or only to the like so the special people are chosen, the chosen ones for that period. He came to everyone. He said, God is for everyone. So first of all, this was shocking for all those people believing in God at that time, or the way they believed in God at that time. So and then he said, so we should help each other, and we should be exercise forgiveness, and not only 7 times, but as much as needed, not only like 7 times. So this was shocking for everyone. So all this message touched the heart of the people. So the poor, the people who were suffering, they understood that there was a way out. There was something else for them. And not only that, so Jesus brought the hope for the afterlife. So the understanding of our spiritual, let's say, nature. So showing them, hey, don't worry. So if you come with me, so your weight will be lighter. So you'll be suffering, although there is suffering here, but it would be much lighter because you are with me. And then there was hope for those who were suffering, and they didn't have any hope. So I mean, the message, the salvation was not to fewer, so it was to everyone, and it was related to the teachings of Jesus. So that's the difference as well. So coming a little bit on what Charlie said. So salvation, Jesus for us is salvation is Spiritism. But the salvation is a little bit different because it's not only believing in Jesus that we are saved. So he didn't came to pay for our sins, let's say. He came and suffered because he needed. There was no other way out to do that because he knew what he would be passing through, coming to us to pass the message, because it was very shocking. But the salvation is, hey, there is a way out. So you need to, there, this is the recipe. So if you follow this recipe, you'll be saved from what? From your ignorance. Your ignorance of what? Your ignorance of how to be good and how to understand, God's laws. So that's the salvation. So now the salvation is in our hands. So that's the thing. So Jesus brought to us the salvation, and this salvation is in our hands. But we are not alone. We can count on him. He's always with us. So he's always helping us to do that as soon as we put our free will to be in this direction. So, in other words, so Jesus brought us the recipe, the model, or the path for us to be saved from our ignorance of the good. And I think that's the real milestone that he brought to us. So I took some notes here because one of the things that he brought to us as well, so is this the importance of love and this disinterested charity, as Charlie said, as a charity, as a, how can I say, as a consequence, the love in action. I think I like that word. So the love in action. So if we understand that, so I would dare to say that Jesus brought to us the feeling era. Why it's the feeling era? Because feeling is what differentiates us from the spiritual principle, when we are like this spiritual principle are in animals. So when we have, what really differentiates us from the animals is our capacity, is our free will, our capacity to choose. I mean, so we can exercise our choices. That's the free will. So, as an example, if we go to a shop, to a store, like I go with Stevan to a store, and we are to buy clothes. Of course, Stevan, we can look at the clothes, and Stevan might choose a black suit, and I can choose a blue suit. Okay, so suit is a suit. So we might be we might be going to the same ceremony, we might be going to the same party or whatever, but we have different choices. So the ceremony might say it's a suit, but we choose differently. Why? And what drives this choice, this different choice? It's our feelings. So Stevan might feel much better wearing a black suit, and I might feel much better wearing a blue suit. So this is what makes this interesting. So this is our free will, and what drives this decision is feeling. It's our feelings. So that's what makes us different from animals. Animals have different. They have some choices. They exercise that, but limited to their instincts, to their surviving needs. Eat, when to drink, when to run away. So this is, we know, we choose according to our feelings, to how we feel according to the circumstances. So when we don't know how to choose, we choose badly, because we might choose when we are close to our animalization, let's say this way, we tend to choose selfish. So we tend to be selfish because we are still trying to choose according to our own needs. But as soon as we develop morally, we tend to choose not according to only to our needs, but we choose according to others' needs as well. So, and this is what we are doing here. We are exercising this capacity of feeling, and feeling like thinking about not only me, but about everyone. Because when we learn how to choose well, we learn for everyone. And if we do that, if I choose what's good for me and what's good for Stevan, what's good for Charles, what's good for Silvia, and if we all care for each other, in that sense. So you need to agree with me that I don't need to care for myself because everybody's caring for each other. So that's the thing. So that's what Jesus came to show us. But he did it in a way that it was different. Why? Because he said that and he lived that. He was not only saying, hey, you need to forgive. He did that when he was suffering in one of the most terrible sufferings in the cross with a lot of pain, like humiliated. So, and he forgave us. So he aligned his actions with his speech, showing us that that was not Hippocratic. I think that's the word, isn't it, Silvia? Hippocratic. Yeah. Yeah. So Hippocratic. Okay. So that's the thing. So that's why Jesus was a milestone. And we hear a lot about like people saying how Jesus, the biggest coach ever, like Jesus, the biggest, I don't know, scientist ever, or we are naming Jesus the biggest everything, because indeed he was. So I was watching a video from Aneta Guimarães. I love Aneta Guimarães, and she was like say challenged to prove that to someone who was not a believer in Jesus or in God. So that the word of Jesus or the phrase like if you are with me, your burden will be lighter. So she needed to prove to this person that this was scientifically like proof safe, and she did it. And she did it, and she did it with scientific methods, like talking about the brain, talking about our defense system, our pain system. And then she said, oh, and that's right. So he was teaching us at that time something that we are discovering now, neurologically speaking. So Jesus was the biggest ever. So his energy, his vibration, his irradiation, his look, everything was so fantastic that it was so impacting that it's impossible not to consider Jesus a milestone. And in order to maybe to finish that, because I need to leave some space for Silvia, and I talk too much. So I think one of the things that Jesus left to us as a takeaway from that is the phrase when he said that love each other like I loved you. I think translating that's the same. So because if we love each other like he did, we'll be loving each other in the perfect way. So because we know that knowledge is not sustained without love, but also love without knowledge it fails. So, and Jesus didn't fail in any aspect. So if we do what he did, and we can, because he said that we can. So it's not because I'm telling you, but of course I cannot do that. But he said that you can do what I do, and much more. So it's because he's saying that we can do that. And if we try to follow his teachings, we can reach happiness. We can reach the God's kingdom inside of us and everywhere, and every place we are. And we can be much better people. We can be people who are really living together in a harmonic way, in a peaceful way. So, and if we put Jesus' moral laws or moral teachings in our human laws, I think nothing would be failing whatsoever. But unfortunately, that's not what we are having today. And this is a pity. But the good thing is that we know that we'll be there will be a day where everyone will be understanding and applying Jesus' laws in everyone's life, and we will be in a much better situation and much happier, much more harmonic, peaceful, and loving each other, which is what he taught us. I think that's basically what I would like to say about that, Stevan. Thank you.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Yes, definitely, he was a milestone, and I don't know. Someday we will look after each other, and at the point we don't look after ourselves. That's well said.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Stevan,
Thank
can
you.
I just read something else on the way to the light? Because I think just to wrap up,
Yeah,
I
sure.
forgot that I had highlighted this. He's saying that his unforgettable lessons, Jesus' lessons, have consequences for all areas of planetary existence, as I said. So in the sense of renewing the social and political institutions of humankind through people's moral transformation in a new age of economic justice and universal harmony.
Okay, thank you. So, thank you for the comments from Lou, VM, Marco Davis. Thank you very much. And now we're gonna go to the easiest question of the day. She's having some problems with the internet, and I hope she's okay now.
I'm okay.
My dear, I will read another
Passage.
the celebration of Christmas for Spiritism is the acclamation of God's love for all, materialized in the exercise of charity towards himself, which leads to a moral transformation, and with the neighbor of each other. So, is a bad translation here, but anyway. If we go to the Spirit's book, question 208, we see that the Spirits said that the moral transformation, the charity, must be taught from the parents to the children. And what is this charity that we need to teach to our children?
I think, hello. By the way, the word is hypocrite, Rodrigo. The word is hypocrite.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, question 208 asks if the parents teach the children not only charity, but everything. And he said it's a responsibility. The answer of the Spirit says a responsibility the parents have to teach the children not only about charity, but about everything. And it's a mission that's given to parents that they would guide their children the best way possible within their abilities and the effort. And that would something that if they not do, they will feel regret about that. So, of course, a lot of the knowledge that we have, it comes from our parents. Now, charity is an act of benevolence that one person offers to another, and it can be in many, many different ways. We know that, if we're in the Gospel according to Spiritism, there are whole chapters on this, that there is material charity, there is also intellectual charity, there is moral charity, and that is the most difficult for us to do, because it's easier to give money or to offer something than anything else. But charity is all, so I think in a little book of messages called Jesus no Lar, they have one of the stories about this person who is is standing in a street, and people pass by and they just drop coins for him. They send coins for him. And a lot of people, but he doesn't want money. He wants to cross the street because he was blind and he couldn't see. So people just kept giving him money, instead of stopping and asking him, do you need help? Why is something wrong? What can I do for you? And it's very interesting until eventually someone comes and stops and he says, I want to cross to the other side of the street. So I think this is a part of charity that we need to be more, because what the gospel teaches us, that the moral charity is the most difficult. Giving money, sending a check, especially now, isn't it? We have the mobile phone. You just put, even in the charity things have already this symbol, I don't know how to call it, that you put your mobile phone there and the money goes and you don't even know to whom you're giving to or whatever. And so it's so easy to do. But what he says, what asks you more, is moral charity. Is moral charity that when you listen to someone who may not have as much knowledge, or someone who thinks they're superior to you, that they're better than you are, and they look at you in a certain way, and just to let go of it. It's a kind of charity. So there are many, many ways in which charity can be done. I think a phone call to a friend, a nice word to someone, to say good morning to someone. I find I always say, for something, not that I'm extremely charitable, I'm not saying that, but whenever I come in a bus, I always say good morning or good afternoon or good evening to the driver, because now they sit there all day long and not only drive the bus, but they have to take the money as well, the card, whatever it is. And when I get off, I always say thank you, because it's just to acknowledge that, I don't think it's charity. It's just to acknowledge that someone knows that he's doing a service and he's taking me from, to a place where I want to go, just to acknowledge to them. And it's often I hear, and I say, thank you, driver. And I said, okay, sometimes they answer. And it's the bus comes near me. And the other day, actually, one of the drivers actually waited for me, because I don't run very fast these days. But, and it's not that you want something in return, but it's just an act of acknowledging someone, the effort, the work they're doing. So this is a lot of things in charity, and also to look in ourselves and to find what can we do and what can we change. And I think it is so acts of charity, and not only in Christianity, but in every religion. I think Charles pointed out that the act of charity is in every single religious movement that there is in the world. That is the basic teachings of any religion. Not that people follow it, but it is there. But I think that this is one of the important things for us in doing charity, and that's one of the basic lessons that Jesus gave us. And as we come towards the date that we celebrate the birth of Christ, like I think Charles pointed out as well, we not exactly know if he was born on that day, but it's a time that we put aside to remember him, that he came into this world. And he has divided history. There is no doubt about it. Even now, they want to change that, but we know that he marked the beginning of one cycle of history and the end of another. And we know that he's the governor of our earth. But I like to put my words really better, because Emmanuel, in his little book Fonte Viva, Living Source, the last one, he talks about Christmas. And also, Joana de Anjos has a whole book on Christmas, which is one message more beautiful than another. And he says everything that is to talk about Christ and Christmas and what it means, the changes that we have to make to ourselves to love one another. But before I read Emmanuel, I would like to read something from the Gospel according to St. Luke, which usually people don't really read this part, but I always think is very beautiful. And it's really in the book after, if you know the Gospel of St. Luke, he talks about at the time of Caesar Augustus, when Joseph went to Bethlehem because he was the lineage of David. But then Jesus is born in a manger, and the angels come to the shepherds and say, "Fear not, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Saviour, which is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you. You shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger." And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of heavenly hosts, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace and goodwill toward men." So I think in this phrase of the angel to the shepherds, it's more or less answers your question in relation to charity. Praise God on heaven, and on earth peace and goodwill toward men. I think that's it, isn't it? But then there is another part here that the other Gospels actually do not have, only in Luke, that Mary and Joseph takes the baby Jesus to the synagogue for, because I think there is one thing people seem to forget, because Jesus was not Christian. Christian was a Jew, and he followed all the religious festivals of the Jewish people. And if you read it, if in the Last Supper, everything corresponds to that. But they take them to take Jesus to the synagogue, and then there he meets this man called Simeon. And he says, Simeon came to the temple and he saw the parents, with the baby. And then he came and he said, then he came to the Spirit into the temple. And when the parents brought the child Jesus to do for him after the custom of the law, they took him up in his arms and blessed God and said, "Lord, now lettest thou servant depart in peace according to thy word, for my eyes have seen thy salvation, which thou hast prepared before the face of all people, and to light the lighten of the Gentiles and the glory of thy people Israel." So Simeon blessed them. And this part usually people don't talk about, but I find it so important that this man knew, even though he saw the baby, he knew who he was. And he says to God, I can go now because I've seen your salvation. And it's to light the life for those who are Gentiles and, be the glory of your people. But also, he said, and this is for all people. So that, I think, resumes what, in a way, many ways, Jesus recognized us when he came, because he brought to us love. And, you all repeated it, love one another as we loved, as I have loved you, and to charity and goodwill toward everyone. But in this message of Emmanuel, he says very quickly, I'm going to jump it quickly. He says, the legions of the angels were at the manger. And then he says, was the glory of God to the divine universe, and peace on earth and goodwill toward men. And then Jesus had come, that he was actually, he declared the celestial ambassador, invested of powers not to hurt or destroy. No punishment to the avariant miser, no to the desperate poor, no disdain to the poor, neither condemnation to sinners, nor hostility towards the proud Pharisee, nor anathema against the unconscious Gentile, that flowed from the divine treasure through the hands of Jesus for the service of goodwill. The just of an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth have found at last a love willing to sacrifice to the, to be resigned to the cross. He said, men and animals, frightened, facing the light, the new light in the stable, they had an incredible joy. From that moment on, the earth would be renewed. The executioner would be worthy of pity. The enemy would be converted in a wayward brother. The criminal would pass to the condition of a sick person. And in Rome, they would distinguish the killing in the circles. In Sidon, they would stop taking the eyes out of the slaves. In Jerusalem, they would no longer leave the sick people to the valleys, the lepers in those valleys of filth. And he said, Jesus brought with him the message of true fraternity, which he revealed, and he moved victorious from the cradle of hay to the blood beam of the cross. Brother, you who at Christmas hear the subtle voices of the miraculous song of the angels, remember that the Master came to us so that we would learn to love one another. Christmas, good news, goodwill. Let's extend the sympathy to everyone, and let's live truly with Jesus in the splendors of a new day. This is Emmanuel. In a way, he brings together everything. And whether you go to the Gospels, whether you go to Emmanuel, Joana de Angelis, or the Gospel according to Spiritism, or in other books of the codification, you find one thing, the reason why this spirit of light, the purest being that has ever come into this earth, he came to show us that we need to love one another, that we depend on one another, that only through giving help. I think Rodrigo mentioned something that I don't need to take care of myself so much, because if I take care of others, others will take care of me. And I think this is the thing that, to spread out the love that Jesus gave. And that was his mission on earth. And that's our mission, whether we are Christians or not. And Jesus himself, not everyone who says God will enter the kingdom of heaven, but those who do the will of his Father who's in heaven. So it's irrelevant whether one calls oneself Christian or any other religion. If you live in accordance to the basic teachings of your own code of ethics in whatever religion you fulfill, is the same basic things. Love one another, love God and love one another, and do to others as you would they do to you. And I think that was the base message of Christmas, of love and forgiveness and humility and peace to ourselves and to others. That's it. Sorry.
Thank you, my dear. Thank you. So, summarizing today, it's love, cherish, and take care of each other. That's it. Simple like this. No. And good evening for our new participant today.
Yeah, say hello.
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 Yeah, welcome, my dear.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to
Or Feliz Navidad. Huh?
Feliz Navidad.
This is Giovanna, my younger.
Giovanna. Okay.
Silvana. Okay.
So, Mr. Charles,
Final
It's-
words.
I'm wondering how it's important to understand the motto of Jesus, the motto of teachings, instead of trying to understand if he did this or if he did that, or let's concentrate our efforts in learning his lesson, because 2,000 years passed by and we are still not understanding the lessons, and we are trying to prove if he exists or not, if he walked through the waters or not, if he did this or did that.
He did exist, there is historical fact on it. And if you read the annals of the Roman Republic, he's there. He talks about him. And Suetonius, another, because everyone always talk about Josephus, but Josephus was a Christian writer and historian, but the Romans were not. And, they talk about Jesus. The man, they don't say Jesus, but they say the man from Palestine who was condemned by Pontius Pilate. So he historically is proven his presence on earth.
Good. One more. Okay. Anyone wants to add anything? Because it's already 10 o'clock.
Now, just Merry Christmas. Have a blessed time. And may Jesus bless each and every one of us, especially those places where people are still killing one another for power that will go before their, even before their body is gone. So let's have peace and light and think the best and do our best.
And
Merry Christmas to everyone.
And don't forget to meditate some of Jesus' teachings, because as you told Stevan, yes, this is what is the most important.
Exactly.
And let's make that Jesus to be born inside of us every day. Christmas should be every day. So we should allow Jesus to guide our lives and to show us the way. So Christmas should be every day. In every day we should have Jesus to be born inside our hearts and helping others to do the same.
Yeah, correct. Okay, let me go to the announcements here. Otherwise Elsa gonna be mad with me. So next week, seeing discarnated spirits, 9 o'clock next Wednesday. Also, we do have the Mediums book online course. We do have a new link. Please pay attention to it. It's every Saturday, 10:30 a.m. London time. The show Time to Talk with Guilherme Dias and Rafael Caldas every other week on Tuesdays at 7:30 p.m. And also Buzz just published the new newsletter, so you can go to Buzz and you can read the messages from Buzz for this end of the year. So with this, we finish our announcements. I want to wish you all of you a Merry Christmas. And let's think about, like Charles said, let's read this, let's meditate, let's read the Psalms, let's do our part.
Yeah.
So
Merry Christmas to everyone.
Marco Davis, Merry Christmas for you, my friend. Louviam, Maria Frias, Leandro Stoll, Juliana Lazari, thank you very much for your engagement with us today. Thank you. So,
Okay,
good night.
good night.
Merry Christmas.
Good night. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Lots of love.
Feliz